fighting for a living, becoming a world champion, and how Luke Rockhold became one of the top athletes in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. All right. Hey ho, let's go. Hello, my legendary friends, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Legends and Losers. Man, am I ever glad you're here. Today, our guest is none other than former UFC champion, former Strikeforce champion, Luke Rockhold. And he's one of the top fighters in the UFC, fighting to get his belt back. And we have a fantastic dialogue. And you might hear, hi, Beatrice. Good girl, B. Can you say hello? Or is that it? Sitting with me for the intro outro today is Beatrice, the beautiful hen, beautiful baby Beatrice, one of our 6 hens. She's sitting on my lap. All right. If you're new to Legends and Losers, that intro kind of tells you what's about to happen. We are not your typical business podcast. Most podcasts, as you well know, business podcasts anyway, are interview shows. And I don't know about you, but I've kind of had it with inauthentic interviews. Your average interview, the interviewer has their talking points, and the interviewer has the talking points, and the interviewee has their, the key messages they want to deliver, and they kind of go at each other, and, you get these prefabricated talking points, and, the interviewer sticks to the narrative they want. I always love it when somebody being interviewed says something absolutely incredible, and instead of drilling into it, the interviewer says, oh, well, great, thank you. And now my next question, and I think, fucking A, somebody legendary just said something awesome. Why don't you have a conversation with them about what they just said? And so in a lot of ways, Legends and Losers is a reaction to that. We are a different format, a new category that you could think of as an authentic dialogue show. And our goal, what we aspire to, is to have authentic dialogues with legendary people about what it takes to design a legendary business and a legendary life. And, we're willing to chase rabbits down zebra holes and wander all over the place and have kind of a meandering dialogue like most people do in most of our lives. We almost never edit the show, so you get the real dialogue, and we let you decide what the cool parts were for you, as opposed to spoon feeding you the way your typical podcast or radio show does. So if you're a new listener, thanks for checking us out. And if you've been with us for a while now, I love you. Now, speaking of people I love, I want to thank everyone who came out to One Life Fully Lived amazing event in Sacramento, California recently. And a huge shout out to everyone who was there. It was an absolute joy to play with you guys, participate with you guys. Thank you so much, Tim and Tina Rode. Tim's the founder of One Life, and Tim and Tina put on an incredible event. Thank you, Brian Rocha. And a special thank you to my friend and mentor, Bixen. He was on episode 16 of Legends and Losers. And he was at the One Life event, and he rocked everybody's world. And Bixen is one of the most captivating and powerful speakers on planet Earth. And speaking of captivating and incredible people on planet Earth, Will Little, who joined us on episode 87 and 89, is one of the 10 most inspirational people I know. And I also want to thank Will for participating at the One Life event. Now, also wanted to alert you, we have a Thanksgiving special coming up for American Thanksgiving, the week of November 20th. Here's what we're doing. We're dropping what we're calling the Legends and Losers Survival Pack. And we currently have 5 shows. We may sneak in a 6th, but we currently have 5 shows that we're working on. And here's what our thinking is. The week of Thanksgiving, you will be traveling and spending time with your family. So to help you survive those things, we're going to drop at least 5 episodes of Legends and Losers that week so that you can binge on Legends and Losers so that, when your Uncle Ernie is chewing your ear off about something in your other ear, you can stick on an earbud and have Legends and Losers going at the same time. And if you're flying around the country or driving around the country, then we'll give you something to chow down on, so to speak, in your brain, in your ear, while you're doing that. So look out for the Legends and Losers Thanksgiving Survival Pack coming to you the week of November the 20th. All right, Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold is a world-class, extraordinary athlete, and it turns out he's an incredible gentleman as well. Luke is a Santa Cruz native, and beyond a shadow of a doubt, one of the best fighters. Most people would say one of the 10 best fighters in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And even if you're not a UFC fan, you are going to love this episode because you're going to get an insight into what it's like to be an elite athlete and to dedicate your life to an extraordinary sport. And mixed martial arts as a way to make a living is, I would argue, the toughest sport there is, because there are very few sports that require you to be at that level of physical prowess and where every competition has so much riding on it. Most of these fighters only fight 2 to 4 times a year. Each fight is pivotal in their career. Each fight represents an opportunity to have something very bad happen to them physically, and as a result, there's just a ton at stake for these folks. And Luke brings us into that world. He's the former UFC Middleweight Champion. He fights at 185 pounds. He's the former Strike Force Middleweight Champion, and he's currently fighting his way back to a UFC title shot. He has a professional record of 16 wins and just 3 losses, and he won his last fight and is now very well positioned to come back for another shot at the 185 belt. And he's also talked a little bit about fighting potentially at 205, which is the next weight class up. So without any further ado, here he is, the champ, Luke Rockhold, on Legends and Losers.
What's it like to be Luke at the moment where you're about to walk down that, make that walk to the octagon? Your music is playing and you're about to go from backstage to in front of 20,000 people. What does that feel like?
It's something you got to kind of, I basically put myself in like a tunnel vision state of mind. If you try to take it in too much, it can overwhelm you, and anxiety builds up. And so you have so many, thoughts going through your head, negatives and positives, and you just try to just think of it as another day, really. And, you try to enjoy the moment, but not enjoy it too much. You really go in there and just, it's such a mind game. You see some of the best guys in the world, in the gym, just guys that are unstoppable, and they go in there and they fail every time. They just can't put it together.
Yeah. But what does that walk feel like?
The walk it's really hard to understand, because you're not really thinking about the walk. You're not trying to take it in.
Yeah.
You're trying to focus on the fight and getting in there and just doing what you do. This is something I do every day, but that stage is different. It's a different feeling being in there. It's so easy for me to spar and fight people every day, but it is such a mind game going into that realm, where everything is on the line. Your manhood is on the line.
Yeah.
You're going against the guy that's been training, his whole life to try to take, your dreams away from you. So just trying to keep yourself grounded as much as possible and focus in. Relaxation is everything. Confidence.
Are you doing breathing exercises?
I do some slight meditation, breathing exercises, and nothing really much at that moment.
Yeah.
Earlier in the day is kind of the focus point. That whole day leading up to the fight, that's the mind trip. That's what really fucks with you.
Why is that?
Oh, that moment's coming later in the day, and what we do, we don't have quarters. We don't have another inning. We have to show up, and everything has to be perfect at that, to a T. No mistakes for any amount of time. So it's fighting is it's hard. It's hard to put into words. What it's like to be in there and to go down that route.
There are not very many sports I can think of where so much is on the line every time. In a normal sport, you call it a game is played, right? But there's that famous Sugar Ray Leonard quote that nobody plays boxing, right? And so you guys have so much on the line. And how are you fighting? I know you took some time off recently, but on average, about 2 to 3 times a year throughout your career?
I'd say so. 2 to 3 is good. Three's plenty. Three's a full year. So you think you got it 2 to 3 months to prepare for a fight. And I put everything into it. There's no whiskey drinking. In training camp, I dedicate myself and every waking moment. So that's then you have another month, potentially 2 months to recover, and then you have other injuries in between. So I grew up in Santa Cruz here, of course. I enjoy the outdoors and surfing and skateboarding. And
you're a wicked surfer, aren't you?
I can surf. I can surf a little bit. My brother's a professional surfer, so I grew up in that world.
And I thought you were buddies with Nat Young.
Yeah, friends with Nat, and I grew up with every surfer in this town, so I know everybody very well. No, I was never in that fighting world, so for me, it's like I got to get away from the gym. I think my time away gives me perspective, and it kind of fuels the fire. So when I go back in the gym, I absorb more information. I'm more willing to absorb. Otherwise, these guys are in the gym. You see, they never leave, and they never really grow. I feel like my time away really gives me like perspective and gives me that fire and that hunger. When I get back, I'm eager to learn, and things are easily absorbed.
How would you sort of connect your relationship with surfing and fighting? What are those things like for you, and how do you compare them in your head?
There's not much connection.
Yeah, well,
surfing is crazy. It's you're powerless out there. And Mother Nature is a powerful thing, and it's conquering the wave is it's an adrenaline rush. It's just as natural as it gets. Whereas fighting is a very controlled, sport. Where I love the outdoors and the feeling you get, getting away. You got to diversify your life and keep the balance.
It's interesting you say fighting is a controlled sport, because there's certain things you can't do to your opponent, but the list is not a giant one, right? Mm-hmm. It's as close to street fighting as we can have in a legal sense.
Pretty much, yeah.
But that's a controlled situation for you.
Rather than, dealing with Mother Nature.
I see. Itself.
But
yeah,
we're taking people to the brink of death, basically. That's what we do. But that's why it's so fucking crazy.
Now, maybe take me back to. Do you remember there was a point in time, Luke, where you said, "I want to be a fighter. This is what I want to do"?
I always grew up as a rough, kid, and I just I would antagonize my brothers, and I would get beat up, and I'd do it again, and I just couldn't get enough. I was always I always had it in me. My brother jokes around because my dad was a huge man, 6'8", size 18 shoes, and he would he'd punish us and spank us. He was always controlled. He wasn't too crazy, but and he'd give it to us, and I'd always go out of my way I know that I was going to get spanked, and I'd go do it anyway. Just take my beating.
Because you wanted to get the beating?
I just like that. I like to break the rules as much as I could, and but I could always deal with the pain. My brothers and all their friends used to beat up on me, and soon one day I got them all back. But I grew up fighting on the handball courts, and back here at New Brighton Middle School in Capitola, I was always quick to put the bullies in their place. It was just ingrained into me.
Short temper.
Short temper. I just didn't like bullies. I didn't like people that kind of disrespected everybody. So
you felt you were the defender. You were Batman.
I was always defending the boys, and that's how I grew up watching Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, and Van Damme was really my guy. Van Damme was like the good-looking white guy that could kick ass and get the throw. I was like, fuck yeah, that's right. So that you always look up to the legends in the movies and how they carried themselves, and that's kind of followed suit, I guess.
And when did you sort of realize, hey, maybe I could make a living kicking ass?
After I had a couple offers coming out of high school for wrestling, and I just didn't want to wrestle in college. I'd done all the intense training, like wrestling camps and summer camps, and it's just brutal. It's fucking torture. And there's no professional outlet in wrestling at that time, and I wasn't gonna go chase something that wasn't gonna pay off. So I decided to hang that up, and I kind of got caught in between lives and didn't know where I wanted to go exactly. I went to Cabrillo, and it was like an art major, just trying to identify.
Were you painting, Luke?
Sculpting.
Sculpting. Were you?
It's pretty good, but there was no real avenue. You always had to get like work underneath, being an apprentice to somebody, and you're selling lies basically, rather than the talent that is. So I don't know. It wasn't really the path. I just like to mess with things. I always like to. I'm an artist. Yes, that's what I do.
Wow.
I like to work with my hands. I've actually won the high school county art show with the bong.
Wow, the soft creative side. Did you say a bong?
A bong. Yeah.
Attaboy.
Won the Santa Cruz County art show with a bong. Get this, my ceramics teacher would, like, everyone at SoCal High would try to put their bongs on the shelf, and he'd basically grab it, analyze it.
Because of course at all high schools they make bongs in ceramics class. It's just normal.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Keep going. Please keep going.
This is Santa Cruz.
Right.
And so so he would break everyone's bongs, and I was like, I'm gonna make the most intricate, just disguised bong you could ever think, and he's gonna have to fire it. So I took it upon myself to just let my mind, go to work, and just basically had created these crazy heads and morphing into different humans and then at the top, and so the eyes would come out of the bottom to be like the stem and all this and then he put it on the shelf, and it was like he fired it. He was so he actually was giving me ideas on how to glaze it. Don't do too much. He's all worried about it, and then I kind of started hinting towards the fact it was a bong, and he's like, and he accepted it because I put so much effort into it. And then when it went in the art show, I'm like, did my bong win the art show? I kept messing with him, and then sure enough, came back, and he's like, tells me I won. I got the blue ribbon, and then he held my bong, and he held it in front of every one of his classes. He wouldn't give it back to me for the week, and basically told everyone if they put this much time and effort into making a bong, he'll fire it for them.
That's a great story. Now, what is more meaningful to you, your Strikeforce championship, your UFC championship, or your ceramic bong championship?
I hold that one in high regard.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right up there with the UFC championship for sure.
Do you still do creative things with your hands?
I put them on hold for a while. I don't know. I have a few of my pieces up in my house, but I haven't had the inspiration to get back to it. Maybe I'll put a studio together later on. I'll dedicate most of my time to fighting and getting away from it. There's a lot of patience it takes to put in effort to make those pieces.
So I'm curious how you get to the place you're at now. I mean, I would argue I don't know where you are on. I could only find the top 15 pound for pound. Do they go lower than that on the pound for pound rankings? How many guys are on the pound for pound rankings?
I think I'm around 15.
Okay.
I think that's what they do, but I don't know how.
Because
they're so
you gotta be in the top 20.
Yeah,
is there anybody who
I was top 3 at one point.
But is there anybody who would argue that you're the scariest guy on the ground in the UFC?
No, I think everyone's pretty aware of that
now.
Especially after the last one.
Who else? Yeah.
Look what I do to these guys. That's why everyone has these jiu-jitsu accolades, these black belts, and they don't understand how to implement the right strategy. It's grappling. MMA grappling is so different than jiu-jitsu. People seek submissions. They are always chasing the submissions, and it creates tension, and people get anxiety about the positions where I flow through positions, and I kind of dominate people with my hips. Hips are everything in grappling. If you have understand hip placement and balance and the flexibility I have that no one can really match, and so everyone is a upper body oriented. They rely on their grips, and they don't get the separation to create the power. When you float guys and you use your hips and you allow yourself to posture up, you can get more shots off. You can get more power. The difference, every inch that you can create distance, you can create that much more velocity in your shots. And so I don't focus on like chasing submissions. People, you can feel, where they're at when you're connected to them. When you're using your upper body all the time, people are aware the guy that's defending is aware of everywhere you're at. When you create that separation, they can't feel you, and so they don't know where the shots are coming from, and they start to panic more. And so you just keep floating them, and then eventually put them away, like I always do.
What do you mean by keep floating them? What does that mean?
Floating is kind of my deal. It's I make them carry my weight.
Mm-hmm.
So I
and you're a big guy for 185, right?
Yeah.
How much do you weigh on fight day typically, Luke?
I usually just over 200 pounds.
Yeah. And typically, how heavy will your opponent be on fight day?
Same.
About the same. Okay.
Most people, I actually don't cut that much weight. Comparably, some guys get back up to like 210. I used to only get to about 200 pounds. But then there's other guys too that come in at probably like 195.
But you're also tall for a 185er.
Very tall, yeah.
Yeah, and kind of lanky comparatively.
Yeah.
You almost always have the reach advantage, don't you?
I have leg advantage. I got long legs, and so I know how to use those. Reach, I'm pretty up there. Of course.
Yeah.
I'm longer. I'm definitely the longer guy, but it's proven strategy. Look at the best guy. Look at John Jones. Look at these guys. It's like at my weight, I'm a big guy, but comparatively to the 205-pound guys, these guys are coming down from like 240 pounds, 250 pounds. These guys are massive, and I can barely break 210. On my off days. So it's people are cutting from pretty up there. Every weight class, these guys are cutting lots of weight.
But you said you'd fight at 205.
I would. I think I'm faster and I'm better in a lot of ways there. But Daniel Cormier, my teammate, he's the champ right now. So I don't want to step on his turf. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it for real.
Yeah.
They're actually offering me fights right now.
At 205.
At 205, but I want to get back. I want to get some revenge first here and
now,
this thing.
I might be the person that dislikes Michael Bisping second most to you, second only to you.
Truly.
What is going to happen there? What's your best guess?
My best guess is he runs away. I let go of it. He really is. He's been scared from the beginning. He's avoided every contender, and it's nothing ever has happened like this in fighting. Like they had him fight Dan Henderson, which is 14th ranked. I don't think they've ever had a champion that's fought someone so low, on the totem pole.
Yeah.
And now George St. Pierre, give me a fucking break.
At 185, right?
185. George has no business fighting at 185. And
I mean, you would know better than me, but he doesn't look like a guy. He doesn't look like a guy who's in your size class, for sure.
Yeah. You like George? Canadian.
Hey, I'm from Montreal. He's from Montreal.
Yeah.
He's been a classy guy, I think, an honorable guy. As a fan, and this is probably completely unfair, and tell me how unfair it is, but I think after he lost to Matt Serra, a lot of his fights were not to lose as opposed to win. And as a fan, you want to see a fighter who fights the way you do. Now, I understand it. I understand why he did it, and he had an incredible streak, and, of course, deeply respect him for it. But his fights got to be less fun over time.
Massive. Yeah.
Is that fair?
Very fair. It happens to a lot of guys. Yeah, they get clipped, and they never come back the same. They strategize more, and they rely on his wrestling more.
Yeah.
I think he's suspect in the in the performance enhancing world too. After he lost to Matt Serra, you'll see how he came back. His body changed a lot too. But he'd always wrestled. He was always scared to engage after that, and he fought very safe. A lot of guys followed down that road. Rashad Evans had a kind of similar path. Lost him and cheated and came back and never was the same again. He's a good friend of mine, but yeah, there's a lot of guys that just can't get over it once they have that once it shuts off, their confidence is broken.
So let me ask you about that, because when you came into the UFC, you tore through pretty much everybody, if I remember right, and then Vitor Belfort.
No, Strikeforce. Vitor was my first fight.
Oh.
I tore through everybody in Strikeforce.
I'm sorry.
I defended my title twice.
Yes.
And then I came over as the champion. They didn't
In Strikeforce. Why didn't they make?
They didn't give me any respect. They never did. I don't know why. I never had the UFC's respect like Gilbert Melendez did at the time, and a couple other Strikeforce guys. For some reason, they overlooked me, and they tried to feed me to Vitor. They knew they were hiding him down there with using steroids, and I felt fucking completely disrespected.
He looked like an action figure, man. Dudes don't look like that. I mean, I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a fan, but that guy looked crazy. When he was on steroids, Matt, he looked like the Incredible Hulk. And then the minute the new testing body came in, he looked like Iggy Pop.
Well said.
No, he did. And Iggy looks great, but like Iggy's 60 and Vitor's 40.
Yeah, it's a sliding scale.
He looks horrible. Yeah, it was a good time for him in Brazil. He was hiding out. I think he won like 4 straight out there, and he was just every time you seen him fight, he just looked like a mutant. He'd go from 85 to 205 like nothing. Just completely blown out. It's they've covered him up quite a few times. I know that.
And then, so how does that make you feel about John Jones?
John Jones is like, some people I think rely on that stuff and need it to build their confidence. I feel like John had the talent, and I don't know exactly everything he was taking, but it's a shame to see a guy go down like that. I think it's obviously related to his brothers. They're in the high, in the football world where they have access to all those high performance drugs and the doctors, and they think they can beat the system. So I don't know what he's exactly taking. I heard he was taking EPO back in the day too.
Wow.
Fighters talk. There's rumors. I'm friends with everybody in the game.
Sure.
And so you heard a lot about it back in the day, but it's a shame. The guy is a real talent. Some guys you see are just steroid freaks like Vitor. Talented guys, but just so juiced up and out of their mind. But I don't think John will ever recover from this one. He's had so many falls, and I don't understand how he's bounced back so many times. But this is one I don't think we'll see him again.
And how do you think about all that in the context of Daniel Cormier?
It's DC is one of my best friends. Love the guy.
Is he as great as we think he is? Seeing him on TV, because I'm a huge fan. I think he's awesome.
DC, he's a great guy. He's a character in the gym. The moment he came to the gym, he was instigating fights and with everybody. Just as he can't turn that man off. He's always on there. We actually, water for me.
Yeah, of course.
We lived together back in my manager's.
Oh yeah,
that doesn't even work.
There's a top on it. So you guys used to be roommates?
Yeah, we used to be roommates on Gilroy together, and it was we got to know each other fairly well. And we'd beat the crap out of each other every day, and he doesn't want to give me an inch, and I don't want to give him any. So when you share the cage with a guy every day like that, you kind of grow fond of them.
It's a weird thing, right?
In the weirdest way, yeah.
When you train with somebody and you're trying to smash each other and push each other all day, and it reminds me of that old cartoon where the sheepdog and the wolf go to work and they check in the morning, they chase each other around all day trying to kill each other, and then they check out at night and they walk to the bus. And there's this crazy bond when you roll around and try to smash somebody all day, every day, right?
A certain level of respect, grows. I remember the first time we sparred each other, he came in, he was just, running his mouth, like I said, the cocky guy. I was like, I want to spar DC. And coaches are like, what are you talking? Really? He's like, because DC's like 260 at the time. I'm barely scratching 200. And they're like, whatever, sure if you want it. And he was pretty tough right off the bat when he came in. So highly regarded, big recruit for us at the time. And I go in there and just start throwing down with him, trying to take his head off with kicks and everything. And he's runs forward, just really raw that time. I had a little more technique than him. I was in the gym for a couple of years, but he was just, you know, super wrestler kind, just massive. Like I said, 260, throw me around the cage, kept throwing me around it, but I kept bouncing back up, and he couldn't hold me down. And then we ended up just brawling it out, and just he just started, couldn't get to me like in the right way. So he just, when he does that, because I can out technique him with my length and everything, so he just just falls into brawl mode and just goes fucking ape shit on me. And then I take some shots, and I drop my hands and start swinging for the fences, and we both just start trying to crack each other till our arms both like fell to exhaustion. And then my coaches were pretty stoked on both of us. And then from there, you know, we respect grew, no doubt.
And you know, it's interesting because you see the fighters and you get the sense for they might not really know what level the opponent they're about to face is truly at. Mm. And so they sort of find out in the octagon. The impression I get watching you is you don't have a concern that this fighter is going to be like at some crazy level way above you, because
that's what I train with every day.
Right. Is that I mean, is that the right way to think about it?
Yeah, it's the only way to think about it. You know, it's an iron sharpens iron world, and guys I'm in the gym with every day, like no one can compete with that. That's what you have to kind of keep telling yourself, you know, as you you know, getting to that fight. What I do every day, like you see guys that come in, good fighters come in to our gym, and they just get destroyed. You know, that we have a different level. Our team is always, you know, on a different, you know, playing field than most.
How's Cain Velasquez doing?
He's doing all right.
Is he healing?
He's healing up. He's doing his best. I think he just had a baby shower yesterday. When did baby showers become so co-ed? I don't understand that.
I don't know. I think it started when we were pregnant. I think as soon as we became pregnant, the baby shower became co-ed. I think that's
true.
Right? I mean, it wasn't that long ago.
This congenital blob. Yeah, at that point. That's when it became a co-thing. Co-baby showers.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds horrifying.
Because when I was a kid, we didn't get pregnant. She got pregnant.
Yeah.
We had sex, and she got pregnant.
That is true. Oh, my God. All right.
Is this one hitting home over here?
And so, yeah, I guess how did the three of you find each other? I mean, three of the greatest fighters in the UFC. A lot of people think Cain is the best heavyweight ever.
Yeah. There's no one that has that ferociousness and his ability. It's like it's no one I've ever faced.
And now what we know about John, you know, everybody says, well, he's still the better fighter. He probably still would have beat DC and all that. But here's the thing, and I don't know why DC doesn't.
Yeah, people are completely in denial about John. It's crazy, you know, and you can't. DC's only losses are to John Jones. Crazy.
Well, and the thing
I think about. But
to your point,
you can never like take that away. What happened? You can't erase that from people's brains. You know, you can't. It'll never be the same. It sucks,
But the thing to me is there's the physical advantage and the psychological advantage, right? If he had to have that to win, it meant he was afraid of DC. Now maybe he was afraid of everybody. I don't know, but it just wasn't a level playing field.
Obviously never was.
Yeah.
DC is he's not obviously the most gifted individual. He's not, doesn't have the most technique. He lacks in so many areas, but he makes up as just a competitor.
Isn't he like a human fire plug?
He's crazy. He's a weird, like Louisiana build, you know, barrel chested guy. I mean, even when he came to the gym, like 250, he could do a backflip. You know,
like, you know that like on,
a weird athlete.
On YouTube and stuff, you find those videos of like fat people doing strangely athletic things.
I think Jack Black's made an entire career out of that, hasn't he?
Yeah. Isn't he the king of that?
Yes, he's the king of the fat guy who shouldn't be able to do that. Yeah. All right, I want to go back to what you said about bouncing back, because we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'm curious, just, you know, you've gone through it yourself, you look at other guys who've gone through it, and you mentioned guys have gotten clipped and never come back from that. Yeah. For the guys that have, what do you see as the commonality? What's worked for them, and what, if you got clipped that bad, how would you emulate or imitate those guys that seem to, they bounce back and they come back strong?
You have to have confidence in yourself. You can't, it's a psychological thing. Once you get clipped and get knocked out, and you have that fear of failing, in there. And it's a pretty embarrassing moment. And people are just fight scared. And if you're not confident in your ability, like if you can go one way or the other, it's like, it's a game of inches, right? Isn't that what it is? If you hesitate for 1 second, the guy's he's gonna beat you to the punch. So you just, I don't know. People just, I can take shots. I've always known I could take a shot in the gym. Unexplainable things happen in fighting, and things happen. But in that cage, it's a different world. But you just gotta let go and have confidence that you're gonna beat him to the punch. Really, some guys just want to fall back on the wrestling, the technique, and they just fight scared. I think, I don't know, it's never been me. You see how I lost to Vitor. I got wheel kicked in the head. I came back and I went against a tough New York boxer at the time. I knocked his ass out and dropped him, punch, and I knocked him out on the feet. I wasn't gonna back down. I wasn't gonna let that get to me and change my game plan. You got to use everything you're given, and you can put it on the line.
And I was just looking to make sure I was remembering right. The Machida fight. Holy shit. I mean, at the time, he wasn't that far removed from being the most feared fighter in the UFC, or certainly one of the most. I mean, the bloom was a little off the rose, but still, he was a terrifying fighter. Yeah. And you made it look like you were sparring me.
Yeah. It's Machida. I did train with him. He came and trained with us in San Jose years back, and so I knew he was. I kind of knew where he was at. He's very tough on the feet, but he didn't have the best ground game at the time. I knew he went to be in the black belt, years after that or whatever. But black belts are black belts. I mean, it's a different world. I'm a different level.
Those pussies.
They're handing those out like candy canes at Christmas. Come on.
Yeah. Look at Chris Weidman was a black belt. Machida was a black belt. David Branch was a black belt. Yeah.
It does seem like that. When you hear the fights announced, it seems like everybody's a black belt in jiu-jitsu now.
A lot of guys are getting there. There's a lot of guys that aren't, though. There's plenty that aren't. But there's different playing field between certain. There's black belts and then there's black belts kind of thing. I don't know. There's some guys that just operate on a different level. The high level guys. It's a different world. I can compete with the best guys in the world. In their realms.
We're just strictly on technique.
In competition, technique and just jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I was a blue belt world champion. And I quit. Purple belt no gi too. Then I stopped jiu-jitsu entirely and I just went into fighting. So I could have probably operated, on that level, if I kept going with it, but it wasn't as fun as fighting. So I stayed in that realm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot there. Going back to kind of coming back from defeat and failure, something I've been thinking a lot about lately. I was actually listening to a really good interview with Ray Dalio, the investor that wrote the book Principles. That's just come out. It's supposed to be an amazing book. One of my mentors has been anticipating it for a long time. And he said that one of the keys to success is pain plus reflection. Right. So it's an analyzing failure. And so I've been thinking a lot about that lately and applying it. And going back to, you mentioned at the very beginning, just when you step into that ring, like your manhood's on the line. And it sounds like that's an ingredient of guys not being able to come back from getting clipped like that, is not wanting to put that on the line again and not being okay if it goes badly. And the more okay you can be with that, the better, and the more fearlessly you can go back in and just give it everything.
Yeah. You got to go back. You got to go in there every time with no regrets. That's what I promised myself. I'll give every last bit of myself in training camp to do everything I possibly could, knowing that I had the built the best weapon I could.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'd done that, I'll go in there with a clear conscience, and I'll never, think twice about it, because obviously you have to focus and relax and try to get yourself in a mental state, which is one of the most important things in fighting. It doesn't matter how sharp you are, how much you've done, but if you can't focus and visualize right, you won't fight right.
All right. So going back to that, like going into the octagon with a clear conscience, knowing that you've built the best weapon over time leading up to that fight, who decides on a daily basis whether that day was a success in the gym? Is it you internally? Is it your coach? Is it you, both of you together, deciding you've given it everything you've got for that day?
Yeah, you got to listen to your body, and I think I've done that better than anybody. I've built a lot of my own game plans. If your coaches aren't in there fighting for it, you take their advice in the best way as possible. But I've always strategized my own style and kind of geared my coaches into that realm. So you just want to know that you're getting better every day. If I don't want to be flawless every day in the gym. So you just kind of listen to your body and push yourself. You know your levels. You know how hard you can push yourself, and I'm a good gauge of how I do in the gym. So
yeah,
we have got a lot of the best guys obviously in the world to play off. You can have a bad day real easily. and so I really focus in and I know every day and try to make the most of every day. So I have confidence in myself no matter who I'm in there with. Even if I'm with Cain Velasquez, I'm gonna try to take his head off. I'm not gonna back down to anybody. This is
the first time you stand across from Cain Velasquez, do you just want to poo? Is that what happens, or how does that feel like?
It was it's not fun. That's when you need your coaches most. Pull Cain's big ass off you. He just sees red. I've taken some beatings from Cain. I can compete with him, but he's so much bigger than me. He's such a bull that some of the sparring sessions I've had with Cain have been brutal.
He seems so athletic for a guy his size.
Unbelievable. He's an anomaly to the Mexican world.
Am I remembering right, Luke? He won his belt in the UFC for the first time against Brock Lesnar. Yeah, and Brock Lesnar at the time had to cut to get to the 265 limit, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And he looked like this freak, you tell me, but was probably on steroids.
Yeah, he's juiced up out of his mind.
And Cain handled him like he was me. Just beat the shit out of him. Just beat him up.
Yeah, that was a wild night.
Yeah.
Down in Anaheim.
Did we have a few beers that night, champ?
We had a couple. No doubt. It was Cain's it's an unstoppable force. When he sees red, he's a really nice guy, the nicest guy in the world. But the moment you hit him in the face, you better fucking be ready to go. I literally have to have my coach Javier just to pull him off me, because I can compete with him for so long, but his size and his weight will get to me, and he just won't stop. You know what I mean? He just comes forward with everything, and he can do everything. So he can kick, he can punch, and he can wrestle, and he puts it all together so well. It's fucking he's never I sparred all over the world with best guys, at every weight class. And no one has ever matched what Cain's what he's done.
Wow.
In his heyday. So I have tremendous respect for his fighting skills and his heart.
So we're going to see him with the strap around his waist soon, do you think?
I think things have changed a lot, for him with his kids and everything. But
sure.
His back has got a sciatic problem.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I know he wants to fight. I know he's going to fight. I think that the title fight is inevitable. So I think it's just depends on how healthy he is. If he can fight healthy, he's crazy. He's pretty unstoppable.
So I got to ask you about some of the stuff outside of fighting that's still connected to your career. Is that cool?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a funny story. The first time I remember seeing you fight, Colin was with me, my buddy Colin. And first of all, you know that your name is so awesome, you need no nickname, right? When your name is Luke Rockhold, there's no nickname required for that, right? And then looking the way that you do, I'm looking at you and it's like, Luke Rockhold, and you look like this insane, handsome action figure. And I'm like, if Luke ever needed to change his name, he'd need to change it to Manly. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Manly. Like, you just look incredible. And so you've been doing all this. The modeling world calls you, and all the celebutards in Hollywood call you, and all that stuff. And so how do you deal with that and yet keep your head in the game and come back from a horrible loss and have an awesome defeat and be back fighting when, I don't have to tell you, a lot of fighters, particularly attractive fighters who are quote unquote marketable, sort of end, or athletes of any kind, end up sort of getting lost somewhere in Hollywood or Madison Avenue.
Yeah. I'm not scared to dabble in that world a little bit, but I know who I am. I'm a fighter, and I've always been. I've always had it ingrained into me. If I'm not competing, if I don't have something to push myself and drive towards, it's not worth living. For me, it's like I got to put it on the line. I have to have something that drives me in life, and after fighting, I'm sure there'll be something else too. But if it's not challenging, if it's not demanding, it's I like to put myself out there. If you don't, there's just, if there's no no risk, there's no reward.
Yeah.
And so for me, you get so much out of that Hollywood, and easy money's easy money. Like take a couple pictures, some beautiful women. So I don't mind that. It's a nice compliment to what I'm doing. But I love fighting, and I like the reward and the risk you get from it.
And so, how old are you now, Luke?
I'm 32.
Yeah.
33, and coming up here
soon.
2 weeks.
So as you think about the arc of a career in fighting, where do you see yourself in that arc?
I feel like I'm at the peak of my career. I mean, athletically, I feel like I'm still there. Everything hurts a little bit more. But I think technically you have so much room to grow in fighting. That's why I think that guys peak so much later in the game than other sports.
Where would you think the peak is for the average male fighter?
I think everyone's different. I think obviously nowadays with nutrition and understanding of the body, like athletes are going so much further. And
yeah.
Even in tennis, the tennis players were like peak at 25, right? Now you have Roger Federer still dominating the game at what is he, 37?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Kelly Slater in surfing.
Yeah, it's
incredible.
Incredible. What is he, 40 something now?
41 or 42 for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he's a threat to win the world title, but he's certainly a threat. You tell me, he's a threat in any competition he's in, right?
100%. He's amazing. I was just out in South Africa with Mick Fanning, and I was watching Kelly and Mick and all those guys surf right in front of me. It was wild to see J Bay and watching those guys surf a wave like that. It's another level. But the John Jones of the world are pretty freakish. There's a handful of guys that stand out.
Yeah,
and it's pretty wild to see.
It's amazing to see those guys in the water, isn't it?
Yeah, it's different, especially that wave of that just, it's a performance wave.
And actually, we have a buddy in common, Joey Wolf.
Oh, Wolfie, yeah.
And Joey says one of the things about surfing is you can't go to play tennis next to Serena Williams, right? You and I can't do that. But like we can paddle out here at Santa Cruz and there's Nat Young, Rookie of the Year. And like he's taking off on waves, and there's Sean Dollar and all the incredible surfers that we have here. You could be in the water with them. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a humbling world out there. Even for a fighter like me, you go out there and everyone's trying to burn you. Like,
do people take off in front of you though? They don't burn you on a wave, do they?
Oh, people, they don't. People act differently in the water. It's a different world. I usually don't even. I don't know. I don't surf that much anymore.
Wow.
I'll find my spots, but I just don't like competing much with these people. And there's a lot of. It just doesn't. I've done my game. I'll go surf if I go like Costa Rica or somewhere like it's not uncrowded and it's actually fun for me. I'll do something like that. But going out here in the heat of the lineup when everyone's on a good day when everyone's in town from everywhere. So it's
I don't surf those days either. Yeah.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
People are stupid localism. I don't even want to deal with it.
And actually, that gets me to an interesting question. You hear these stories of fighters like yourself, and I remember hearing about Chuck Liddell and guys in bars always kind of wanting to come up to him and throw down with him and stuff. Does that shit happen to you in the world? Do people want to fight you when you're walking around in the world?
It happens from time to time, but for the most part, people like, they usually think twice. So maybe they will try to fight me, and then like one of their friends will recognize me and be like, hey, you might want to pull back on this one. I don't go looking for fights. I get it out of my system too, it's like, and I'm fighting every day. So like, I don't have much of an urge to fight. I'm out. And until you see some guy like, bumps into you and tries to dominate some space that's not his. And you're like, whoa, buddy. Move over.
But generally, people aren't, you don't have 140-pound guys coming up to you trying to pick fights just to show how cool they are.
No. It's usually like the big, huge guys. Yeah. And I like them. Like I said, they just, they always trying to just bully types, and the guys that have a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
Usually it's like bouncers or something like that, that all trying to act tough and, be a dick or something like that, and I'll push back a little bit. But I've been in fights. They, if someone wants to fight you, you ask me like, how much you got on you? I don't fight for free. Usually it makes them think twice about it too. They're like, what?
This costs many hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, you think I'm just going to beat you up in this? That's right. On the street for free.
Black in your back pocket.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a Wells Fargo truck that you're driving? Mofo.
That's right.
And then, how do you think about the spiritual side of fighting?
Spiritual side. I would give me your take on it first.
You just hear a lot of fighters who, or maybe not, some fighters who come from a real mystical place, and the discipline and the role of a master and a sensei, and sort of the channeling effect of it, and the breathing, and sort of it almost becomes yoga-esque. For some fighters, it's almost a religious and a spiritual kind of experience. They kind of experience who they are at a different level through the body. None of that for you, huh? I can tell by the look on your face.
I'm a martial artist. I've always been. I grew up. I did judo when I was 6 years old. I did karate. Competed for a long time there. It's I think you find out a lot about yourself in there, and it is it's a crazy mind game, and that's what I love about it. It's a challenge that you'll never come up against in life, and you just I've always been somewhat spiritual, you could say, but it's hard to put that out, and understand exactly like their spiritual side in there, but it's definitely a magical place at times.
Going back to preparing for that, the big night. You mentioned Roger Federer. The interesting thing about tennis is they have tune-up matches. So they'll go into a major tournament. They're coming off the back of 3 lead-up tournaments in a row, and there's a repetition there, and they're able to build like a structure right around that day, around that big match. They know, hey, this is what I do going into a match, and they're doing it over and over and over and over again. You're fighting once or twice a year. It's like the polar opposite of that. Mm-hmm. So what is that day leading up to? I mean, you have no control over the timing. You don't really have any control over when it's being broadcast. I mean, the undercard fights, can run long, like all those variables. Mm. How do you structure that day? What does that day look like leading up to the big fight?
I mean, the structure builds your whole training camp, really. We fight on that exact minute, pretty much. It's like, down the day, everything gets closer. So everything's got to be perfect. You got to build consistency in your life. So we start way months before. It's what you're eating, it's how you're living. You're going to create that constant, program, and so you don't have an off day. You can't have an off day, because we're fighting on the exact moment. So you're doing everything you can to get there. And that day is it's a mind game, but you just gotta relax, focus in on what you can control, and really, like, when I'm in that ultra relaxed state, and you're patient, everything kind of slows down. You get those out of body moments when you just let it go. Like I said, you build the consistency, you do everything you can, so you have no regrets. At that point, you've done everything. That's ease. It eases the mind, eases the body, and then you can kind of just rely on it's another day. It's just another day. I do this all the time. It's no different. And you just kind of it's a mind game, that because you have so many negative thoughts in your head, like, what am I doing here? What the hell am I doing for a living? Like,
Yeah.
is this real? Is this what I do? And but I do it every day, and it's no different. It's no different. It's no different. This is what I do, and you get in there and you're like, fuck, what am I doing? But then you get in there, and like, I swear, when I get in the cage, it's like you have those mind games that play all day, all week. It comes on that last few days as you leading up to the fight. But the moment you get in that cage and the door shuts, it's kind of just falls off, and you're like, this is it. I'm home. It's just that the build up of the stage, all the shit you've talked, and you got to come back it up, and that's you just let it go. Really, I mean, when you can just let go, that's the best. You hold on to certain things, and you gotta, I have to do this. I have to perform like this, and you can't let any of that kind of hinder your thought process. You just let the fight, take its course, and then you always have your best performances. When I force a fight and I think I need to do this, I think I know that it never comes off right. You just that relaxation, that confidence, everything slows down in that moment. Like you said, something I do every day. So I'm just gotta act like it's just another day.
And if you don't want to go there, it's fine, of course. But I think about your Bisbane loss, and as a fan, there are nights where you stand there and you're just staring at the TV and yelling at the TV, and you can't believe what you just saw. Right? It was like, for me, that fight was, as a fan, it was just like watching Ronda Rousey get head kicked by Holly Holm. And actually, it's that just kind of a shocking thing, right? Where you're like, you feel invested in the fighter, and then this thing happens. You're like, holy shit. Yeah. So, hey,
holy shit is right.
What's it like to have achieved everything you ever wanted, and then from you like that, and then lose it like that, especially to a guy like that who's an asshole?
Yeah, it's not the best feeling. That one it fucked with me for quite some time.
How physically hurt were you, Luke?
Physically?
Yeah.
I got clipped. I tore the volar plate on two of my fingers, a couple things. But I recovered fairly quickly. And obviously, you take shots like that. It takes time to recover. You want to clear the cobwebs. So I wasn't too bad. Just a couple things here and there. But I knew what I wanted, like, right off the bat. I just reflecting back on it is I was forcing a fight that wasn't me. I felt like I had to. The first fight with Bisping, I was like, I'm gonna knock you out in the first round. I'm knock you out. And I kept telling him, and then I remember as it got closer to the fight, I let that all fall off. I was like, I had to built into my head that I wanted to go out there and humiliate him. And then somewhere in the backstage, I just kind of realized, I was like, just relax. Just fight the fight, You don't have to put any time frame on it. Just go out there and do your thing. And I remember I came into that just a focused state, and that was one of the most centered fights I've had. I'd say, like, most conscious in there, and everything just was perfect. This fight, the second fight, he came in on short notice. And
was it a week, or how long was it?
It was about 3 weeks.
3 weeks, okay. Who were you scheduled to fight?
Chris Weidman. Scheduled to fight. Yeah, we're going to do the rematch with him.
Yeah.
And then Bisbing came in, on short notice. I had some injuries and things, and but I was willing to go. And Bisbee, everyone wrote him off. Obviously, it was like a minus 1,000 or something like that in betting odds, and people were building me up. Number 3 pound for pound fighter in the world. And people were comparing me to this and that, and him coming in on short notice, I just like took it upon myself. Like I had to go out there and humiliate him and put him away. Like I want to beat him before he got tired. No excuses. And
Yeah.
I wanted to go make a statement. It was in LA, all the celebrities there. It's like people had like built in my head that he couldn't compete with me, and I let it all get to me, and I felt like I had to go out there and do something more. And I forced a fight, which is always the worst me in the gym. It's like when you go in there and you're forcing action, to leave room for error. I'm a precise fighter. When I'm patient, you get the timing, and I can pick apart anybody in any realm of the fight. But I rushed forward or ran after him, trying to knock him out, and people didn't give him any credit. And in this game, it doesn't matter who you are. There's crazy things happen, and if you hit in the perfect spot, that's it. And so he linked, 2 punches together in such close proximity and timing. It kept me rattled, and I lost it. But life is a learning experience, and I always come back.
Most of us, Luke, when we fail at what we do, there aren't millions of people watching, right? No, tens of thousands in the arena and millions more. And so, what's that next morning like physically, psychologically? What's that like when you wake up the day after that fight?
It's not fun. It's very, you don't want to act like it's real, right? You just, I remember I was drowning myself in booze for that week, and I took it pretty hard, yeah. And I just in denial about it, calling the UFC and trying to get my rematch and trying to like plead my case, and just knowing that, I gave it up. I'll beat that guy, 99 out of 100 times.
But you own that you fucked up. That's how you feel.
Yeah, I fucked up. I didn't lose to a better fighter. If that were to happen, I'd accept it and work around it and try to build myself back up. But it was a mental mistake. And to see it, go on the way how things have gone since then, and letting him get away with what he's been doing, it's just annoying to see, and that's why I've always been so vocal about it.
Well, and so what's that like to not many of us have public Twitter fights with our employer, So what's it like to be tweeting Dana White that, I don't.
You got to stand up for yourself.
You're definitely saying, hey, this sucks and this is bullshit. And I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, you definitely have a disagreement about where the division is, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, look what they're doing. They're bringing back George St. Pierre and fighting him at a middleweight title shot. The guy's been retired and never fought.
How many years retired?
At least 4 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So George is, he's done his thing, but it's becoming a circus ever since WME took over. I felt like they've been chasing a debt. They're trying to pay off a $4 billion debt. They lost the structure of where the fight game was. There was the top guys fought the top guys. The champions had a pool of a few people that you could fight from. We always pretty much stayed within that realm. And now you're putting on freak shows to sell pay-per-views, trying to just force feed the public fights that aren't real. If you want to do that, it's just there's a lot.
Maybe you should fight Ken Shamrock.
I mean, you can do them. You can do the freak shows, but not for world titles.
Right.
World titles mean something. They should mean something.
Yeah.
And they're just they're taking that away. Yeah.
And so, but the great news is, I don't know, you tell me, you look like you're perfectly positioned to get whoever the winner of Bisbang and
problem is, they're not going to fight us. They're going to fight me. Neither one will.
You don't think either one will fight you?
No, if Bisbee won't fight me to this point, he's not going to fight me after his payday.
Yeah. And you think GSP drops down to 170?
I think GSP loses the fight.
Yeah.
But he's not going to fight me or Whitaker or Yoel or anybody. There's just no way. he's a little man, and you know, his game plan. I just don't think it's going to work against Bisping. He's a scrambler. He'll get up and probably outbox George and maybe finish him later on. George doesn't have the confidence. You know, Bisping has taken his shots, but he's a tough bastard. He's not the most gifted, but he's a tough guy.
He's that classic British kind of meathead guy, right?
Yeah.
He's like a zombie.
Cocky prick, yeah. But he never gave up, you know, to his credit. And so he's stubborn, but strong-minded.
So if the ball bounces the right way, Luke Rockhold is champion again by
early next year. We're waiting on Whitaker
before July 4th. You think?
Yeah. We'll get something earlier than that for sure.
And so, you know, I know how
in a perfect world, George St. Pierre gets injured, gets abducted by aliens, and
you'll be ready.
He doesn't make it to the fight.
So you're ready to go.
George is a head case. I don't know if you know George. Like, he left because he had issues with his head.
Well, yeah, and he did see aliens,
and he
right?
saw aliens, and he claimed like he was abducted by aliens and all this stuff. George is he's a head case, and that's why like anything could happen. This is that time frame this month, the last 4 weeks, when you know everything starts to take effect, injuries and everything. Everyone kind of, you know, gets cold feet, and you know, the aliens get into his head. You never know what could happen, and so in a perfect world, he gets abducted, and I slide right in. I think that's the only way Bisping fights me, is if George falls out, because he's going to have to be forced. You know, he needs his payday, and that's the only way that he would actually accept the fight.
And so you're going to be ready to step in on last minute's notice.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Hold on. And, you know, the thing about aliens is they get guys. So
Is it a Canadian thing?
I'll tell you 2 quick funny stories about aliens. Here's to the aliens getting in and Luke winning the fight. 2 business guys I knew with the aliens. Remember Ross Perot? Do you remember that guy?
Yeah.
He ran for president and shit. He was the founder of EDS. And he built the EDS headquarters to protect it against aliens, because aliens tried to abduct his daughter. Yeah. And then there was this guy that I knew that I competed against years ago in the .com boom. And his name was Joe Fromage. And he was a very successful entrepreneur. He started this company called US Web, and he lived right over the hill here in Los Gatos. And the aliens came to see him in Los Gatos one night, and they told him all this shit. And he started this weird alien UFO religion. Yeah, and that was kind of the last we ever heard of him. So here's what I know: once the aliens start with you, George may be
So
done.
you're saying there's a chance?
I think there's a really good chance.
I think so too.
Because once you go alien, you can't go back.
Oh, that's a one.
You see Chris on Amazon after you leave, like just ordering like green lights and like drones and like just mounting a campaign against GSP's house, just to freak him out.
Actually, speaking of this, there's a hysterical movie called Bowfinger with. Do you know this movie?
Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy.
Steve Martin in it. So tell Luke about this movie. It's one of my favorite movies.
Oh, I don't remember that much about the movie. Come on now.
Okay,
I
well.
don't even know where you're going with the story.
Well, so Steve Martin plays this failing director, and he wants to shoot this movie, and it needs it to be a success because his whole life is in a shambles. And so Eddie Murphy's this big star, like an action star. And so he decides to shoot a movie with Eddie Murphy in it, but he can't afford Eddie Murphy. So he tells all the actors that he's just really weird and you're going to interact with them. And they like chase him around Hollywood and they shoot all these scenes with him. And it's an alien movie. And it turns out Eddie Murphy's crazy fuck character is terrified of aliens. And so the movie is really, really funny. And he goes to see this like self-help guru who gives him these mantras. And he's like, there are no aliens trying to kill me. And he's got all these mantras. So yeah, alien movies. Once the aliens, so we could go full Bowfinger on GSP and freak them the fuck out.
That's right.
I like this.
Yeah, French Canadian Bowfinger. I think we should do it.
French Canadian Bowfinger. All right. Let's talk about weaknesses a little bit. Strengths and weaknesses. So when whether it's losing a fight or whatever the case is, I'm always curious. like you hear like basketball players, tennis players a lot talk about like, yeah, they'll go deep on their weaknesses, but they're always trying to like put a fine point on their, on the things that are the weak parts of their game and shave those off so that opponents can't come directly at those weaknesses and nail them. So, I mean, how much time do you spend thinking about that? Or do you kind of do the Bruce Lee, I'm going to do, 10,000 repetitions of the thing I do best and get really, really good at that and ignore everything else?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to hide your weakness is to impose your strengths.
Yeah.
So I mean, you want to rely on your strengths, of course. For me, I'm so well-rounded. I think that's what makes me who I am. I can fight you anywhere. And I've always been very diverse within my attacks. My ground game. I grew up wrestling. I went into jiu-jitsu. I took it to another level there, and then I started striking. I'm long. I'm gifted, and I can do some things that not a lot of people can do on the feet. I'm creative there. So I use everything to my advantage. I rely on certain things in my striking world. Like when I get loose, everyone sees me. I have a dominating left kick and I have a right hook that, so I can catch you, kind of wave you into my style. But I got a lot more to my game. It's just no one really makes it past that point to right get there and the striking opens. So I usually finish them in the first and the second round. So
like you don't get to reach down very far into the bag of tricks.
My bag of tricks.
Yeah.
It's like people criticize what I do. But, it's not my fault.
Highly effective. That left kick is highly effective.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I've never been scared. I'm always going to different gyms, and I go and I don't have like a weakness. I don't believe.
Okay.
There's so many people that hide their weaknesses, and they the secret game plan. It's like I'll go in and I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do, and I'm still gonna do it. I go into gyms on off days, and I'll spar anybody. I'll put it on the line. That's how you learn. That's how you get better. You get different looks, and I'll walk in any gym around the world anytime. The best boxers in the world too. I mean, done it all. I went into Floyd Mayweather's gym.
Did you?
And surf trunks and barefooted. sparred Andrew Tabiti. Is just the new champ in my division right now. So it's like I've done it with the best, and but you definitely, I think focusing on your strengths is more important than your weaknesses. You don't want to have, depending on what your weaknesses are. Obviously, if you have a weak ground game, you need to learn that to some extent. But you want to obviously focus more on your strengths, which is stand up.
And then, Luke, how do you think about the business side, the marketing side? Because, of course, in the UFC today, you guys are independent contractors, and to have a great career, you have to be good at business, don't you?
Yeah, no, you do. It's negotiations are real in there with those guys. It gets gangster at times. They try to, leverage you and belittle you when it comes down to it. And you got to stand your ground and put it on the line basically. And then you get to that point where they always try to get you to re-sign before your last fight. So they get you into a contract to secure you in the contract. If you or you take that last fight and you go into free agency, and then you have more negotiation power. But if you don't have the balls to lose, to win that fight, if you lose that fight, you lose your negotiation power. But so they offer you a bigger contract before, like a nicer contract. But if you put your ass on the line, beat that guy up, and then you have the real power to do that.
So how do you make that trade-off in your head when you're in that situation?
Yeah, it's you got to believe in yourself.
So you just go for it.
I've back in the day, it was weird because they're definitely gonna try to stick it to you. If you don't re-sign the contract, they don't like that they want you to re-sign earlier. So they're gonna give you the toughest test possible. So it's gonna, they're gonna make you fight like a steroid guy in Brazil or some shit like that. Like, what do you?
We're going right to the steroid motherfuckers hometown.
Yeah, waiting, son. Go to Brazil.
Yeah, where the food's really bad and the water's contaminated. Yeah.
So it's definitely gangster world in there. So you definitely have to just have confidence in yourself, and obviously business. Have a good team around you of people. You come in there. And
so I assume you have a manager.
Yeah, I have managers. I have agents. Quite a few people. my corner. So, but a lot of it, you know, is you. And you know the numbers and how to, you know, demand what you're worth is. And so when you get to that point, you play hardball.
And then what percentage of your income is earned outside the octagon versus inside the octagon?
I mean, it depends just for me in general.
Yeah.
I make good money outside the cage now.
Yeah.
It definitely, you know, comes in from everywhere these days. So I got some pretty cool campaigns about to launch, and so some nice paychecks.
It reminds me of Keith Richards used to talk about this, how much he loved it that he could be sleeping and making money because somewhere in the world they were playing Satisfaction. Got some of that royalty action going on, right?
Yeah. You'll be I'll be indoors around the world.
And why do you think you've been able to do that when so many other fighters have not? I mean, obviously the results in the octagon speak for themselves, but there are other fighters who have great results but don't succeed outside.
You know, because I spent the last 10 years, you know, making guys ugly and staying pretty.
That is the best quote of the show right there.
Not my fault they can't get to me. Prettiest years in the sport over here. So, I mean, yeah, I've been fighting the best guys in the world, you know, at the top of the game, and I've kept my features intact, I guess, and my skills are above everybody else's, and so I mean, I built myself into the fight, and I get prettier every fight. Too. every time I'm on TV, I seem to get a little bit better looking. So it's weird how that works. And the contracts just get better and better.
Chicks do dig you because I have you know, we have lots of people over for
world title.
We have lots of people over for most of the fights, and you know, often the gals are only watching with half an eye if they're watching at all. But when Luke shows up, they're like, who's that? You know, that's Manley. That's who that is. He's going to kick some ass now. He's not just cute.
Look good, feel good, fight good.
And then how do you think about, figuring out when to retire? I mean, it's such a cliche that fighters stay on and they end up getting their brains beat out. And, you know, you see all these older guys in Bellator and you're like, is Tito Ortiz really still fighting? Like, how can that even be true and stuff? And so how do you think about that part, Jam?
Yeah, you gotta gauge it for yourself. And I don't want to fight forever. I don't want to be that guy. I see the injuries stacking up everywhere. And of course, I just went out to Las Vegas and I did, you know, the brain study with the Cleveland Clinic. And so my test scores were a little better than last year's at least. So, and they think they know.
So your brain got better year over year?
You can actually rebuild it. Yeah. It's a little off right now after the.
See, there's hope for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brain needs to get better, I think.
Yeah, you just gonna drink more. I'm a little slow from the weekend. It was quite the weekend of celebration. So, passed all my tests, and then I decided to go pollute my brain for the Vegas.
You're still a guy, and a guy from Santa Cruz at that.
Yeah, no. So you gotta, you know, I'm in the gym, and I'm still the best guy. When I go in the gym, I don't think anybody can compete with me. I go around the world, man. I compete with everybody, so I know where I'm at. I spar the best guys in the world on different playing fields everywhere. I'm still there. I think I'm by far the best, and so you know, if I'm that good, I feel like I want to compete, and I have a lot left to accomplish.
I mean, I look at what you did to Chris Weidman by way of example, right? And here's a guy who, of course, beats Anderson Silva twice.
Yeah.
And I don't think he gets enough credit for it because both cases were weird. But the reality is that guy set those situations up, put him on his heels, and made those opportunities happen. And so nobody could touch Anderson before that forever.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I don't know, this may be unfair, but you made him look a lot more human than anybody else ever made him look. And that guy destroyed the greatest fighter pound for pound in history, according to like a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you made him look pretty ordinary.
Yeah, I think Anderson, he's a very talented guy, and what he was able to accomplish in there. But I think the level has grown tremendously, and he didn't have the toughest division, I'd say, at the time. he definitely did some crazy things, but yeah, the level has grown quite a bit. Chris is a tough guy too, and he's got holes in his game, but things are a bit different these days, and so everything's growing so fast in this world. The techniques there was guys back in the day like Anderson. He's a good striker, and he was a decent grappler, and so he could disguise that, but he wasn't three-dimensional. The fighters these days, everyone's three-dimensional for the most part, and these guys are good strikers, they're good wrestlers, and they're good at jiu-jitsu. And Anderson, got away with being a good striker, okay jiu-jitsu and no wrestling. And then Chris, had the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu, and he could strike a little bit too. So he was able to force his will on him and have like a 2-to-1 advantage. Then with Chris, he's got wrestling. I'd say his wrestling's a little better than mine, whatever. But I have a 2-to-1 advantage on him. So,
But
because I can do all three though.
if I remember right, it wasn't like he was taking you down every 15 seconds.
He took me down a couple times, but he couldn't do anything with it. I think I was the first.
But most guys who take you down regret taking you down, because you on the ground looks like a really bad idea to me.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
You're from the bottom. You're horrible. You're almost like a Diaz brother in terms of how horrible you are from the bottom.
I'm not a big bottom guy these days. I'm good at the bottom. I'm good at scrambling and taking advantage of that.
But you don't. My point is, you don't freak out. It's that you
don't freak out.
It looks like you don't give a shit that you're on the bottom. You're going to handle it. You are going to change position. You're going to do whatever you're going to do. But you're not like, oh, you got me. That's not what's going on.
No one's going to hold me down. I spent my career with Daniel Cormier and Cain Velasquez taking me down. Two bodies of that size, like wrestlers, world-class guys, those are the best you're going to get. So yeah, having a guy my size on top of me is not gonna freak me out. I'm going to get up. I built a career off getting up from those guys. So,
and
no
I guess
sweat, no sweat.
The really big other thing I want to ask you is, okay, so the guys who fight in the UFC are the greatest fighters in the world, and you're in the top 5 easily in that world. What do you think is the biggest thing you've learned about what it takes to be that elite in any field, but of course in your field? Like, you have gotten to a rarefied air that very few people in any field get to. What do you think is the difference that makes the difference?
I think it's just something that's been ingrained into me. It's just I've never backed down to anybody. I've never thought anybody was better than me. And it's just I'm always going to do more. I'm always going to push myself further. It's like I've just always had that mentality that I'm going to be the best. And you have to have it. And if you don't, what is the law of attraction, right? Whatever you believe, you focus on it, it will come true.
So a little bit of the secret.
A little bit of the secret, you gotta have some secret in your life.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there's a lot of truth to it. It's a manifest destiny. It's like I've always kind of knew what was going to happen. I was going to do this. I was going to do that. And there was never, a second thought in my head. I've always, going to work harder. I'm going to get better. I'm going to correct my mistakes, and I'm going to be better than you. And that's just been me from the moment I could ever remember.
And what's the ideal scenario for you for the end of your fight career?
Ideal scenario is I go, kick Bisping's ass. I'd let go of it. I'll get the title back and do my thing. So we'll see. And I got a couple ideas.
I mean, at 32, assuming you get the title back within the next 6 months or less, you could conceivably hold the title for quite a long time.
Quite a long time, Just got to keep my focus. And like I said, I don't want to fight forever. But
what's the record? Do you know, Luke, in terms of title defenses at 185?
Anderson's record was 10, I think, or 9, 10, something like that.
Right, and I guess Demetrius Johnson's going for it, right?
Demetrius is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a different world out there. I mean, I don't know. Demetrius is an amazing fighter. He's so technical and fucking crazy fast. He's one of the most well-rounded fighters I've ever seen. His timing is impeccable. He doesn't get enough credit. People just don't understand that.
Is it because the little guys?
Little guy, yeah. But like the division is not that deep there too. You have a pool of 20 guys or whatever.
Right, and he's killed each of them twice.
Everyone, yeah. So it's interesting how that works. I'm not trying to go out there. That's not my focus. Is to break those records. I'm out there to just go win the title, and I can try to do some things that nobody's done. I think I can. I still can attack that 205-pound title too. I think that's very within my reach there too. So do my thing here at 85. I think it's inevitable. I probably fight Robert Whittaker.
Yep.
That's probably the fight that's going to happen. I don't think Bisping's fighting any of us. And,
do you think it'll happen before the end of 2017?
No. The Whittaker's got some injuries, and so to my knowledge, that the fight with him would probably take place in like January.
But you're ready no matter what happens, right, champ?
I'm ready. Trust me. If the aliens come, I'll be ready to go.
Ooh-woo. All right. Anything else before we kick out of this wave?
It's been a pleasure. It's looking forward to get back in there, but I think we'll see. Just expect a Whittaker fight in early 18.
Well, Luke, as you can tell, I'm a huge fan. I think you're fucking awesome. It's great to see a Santa Cruz boy just dominating in the UFC, and you're a great champion, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Good to meet you.
All right, there he is, Luke Rockhold, the champion. If you like this episode, then check out episode 18 with the veteran voice of the Octagon announcer himself, Bruce Buffer, on episode 18 of Legends and Losers. We've got a couple shout-outs, some people we want to wave to. Michelle Waite, thank you so much for your – yes, Beatrice. Thank you so much. She's a big fan of what you did, Michelle, for your awesome LinkedIn share of Play Bigger. Brian Wilson, for your awesome shout-out of Legends and Losers on LinkedIn. For Jeff Hudson Cyril, I hope I'm saying that right. For your over-the-top awesome review of Play Bigger on LinkedIn, and also on LinkedIn to Flavia Richardson for your kind and undeserved shout out. Speaking of things we don't deserve for you to go to iTunes right now and write us a spectacular review. If you love Legends and Losers, please do that, because we'd love you a little bit extra if you did. All right. We would like to thank HarperCollins, Instant Classic Play Bigger, how pirates, dreamers, and innovators create and dominate markets. Our good friends at Equity Directory, the invite-only network of entrepreneurs and startup talent exchanging work for equity. Again, our friends at onelifefullylive.org, dream, plan, and live your best life. We'd also like to thank the Ultimate Fighting Championship at UFC.com. Shout out to our friends Capsule, legendary brand design, a legendary brand design agency at capsule.us. Interview Valet, podcast interview marketing. If you're a thought leader, get your leading thoughts on podcasts at interviewvalet.com. The Business of Story podcast, speaking of legendary podcasts, with our friend Park Howell. It's a great show. I love being on it. Check it out, The Business of Story. Scotch, put a little scotch in your belly and you'll have a little Scottish fire in your belly. Another podcast we love, The Practice of the Practice, with our friend Joe Sanick. Thanks, Joe. You're awesome. Tahoe Truckee Homes. We make Tahoe dreams come true at TahoeTruckeeHomes.com. Verve Coffee. Put some Santa Cruz in your coffee cup at VerveCoffee.com. Our good friends at Fathom Digital Marketing that drives revenue. Check us out at FathomDelivers.com. The amazing book, The Amazon Way, 14 Leadership Principles Behind the World's Most Disruptive Company, by our friend and guest, John Rossman. And of course, PursuingResults.com. They produce legendary podcasts, and this one too. And don't forget Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières. We help people in the worst places on planet Earth. We would like to remind you that today's information is provided to you solely for informational purposes. This oddcast is the sole property of the Legends and Losers Oddcast Network, and we would love it, wouldn't we, Beatrice, if you shared the shit out of it. This oddcast is produced, clearly, in a studio that does pertaining to nuts, and containing nuts. The producers of this oddcast may very well have been consuming libations. Don't forget to teach martial arts. There's no such thing as a participation award. We're also on YouTube. Don't be lame and get out of the passing lane. Also, never forget, you can't be a legend without being a loser. We hated United Airlines before it was cool. And hey, Colin, this oddcast really ties the room together, doesn't it? Our deepest apologies go out today to UFC fighter Michael Bisping. Sorry, Michael, we just ran out of time for you. That's it, my friends. We hope to see you again soon on another episode of Legends and Losers.